All right, so I would like to introduce to you our speaker today, and I'm going to read a script here. So, we need to ignite our excitement in order to build a continuous improvement culture focused on the patient experience and hold everyone accountable for making it happen. So last year was our year of accountability and service excellence, correct? You guys remember that? So we're going to continue on that trend. As president of the Lean Consulting Group, our speaker, Michael Baer, leads a highly trained group of consultants skilled at implementing sustainable Lean practices. He has an MBA and is certified Lean Black Belt for healthcare. He teaches organizations the living, breathing, essential Lean processes that build successful, self-sustaining corporate cultures. And he's shared a lot of examples at his earlier sessions that were pretty exciting about how organizations have improved their operations to improve patient experience and also revenue, which is pretty exciting. In today's short training program, Michael will familiarize us with some basic Lean terms, concepts, and tools. He will outline the next step of the Lean implementation and training. He will show us how to supercharge our service excellence initiative. And he told me earlier that today's workshop was just a taste to whet our appetites a little bit. And later on, when he's here next month, I think we're actually going to be swimming in Lean. Is that correct, Michael? Yeah. So please join me in welcoming our implementation specialist, Michael Baer.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nick. Imagine if you were the CFO of this hospital, and you've got the year-end financial statements in front of you. And you've got a variance that you can't explain. And you've checked all of the numbers, and you've checked everything twice and three times, and no matter what happens, no matter how hard you look, you cannot figure out why you made $1 million more this year than you did last year. Imagine if you were working in a hospital and you were in surgery and you were part of the person responsible for setting up surgical trays. And you're running around and doing all of this stuff. And suppose you had a look at what you were doing. You applied some Lean principles, some Lean practices, and some Lean tools. And at the end of 1 year, you discovered that you've saved $1 million and 126 miles of walking. Suppose you were working in a radiology department. And you're running back and forth and you're always tired. And you decided we need to look at what we're doing. Are we being effective as we can? So you sat down, you did what you had to do, you used some very cool Lean tools that we'll teach you about. You made a slight rearrangement in the way that your unit is organized and arranged. And you found out at the end of the day, you've got 45 more minutes to serve customers and do more images, to generate a little bit more revenue. And you're not nearly as tired. And the poor patient, you know in radiology, they make you lie on a steel plate that they refrigerate just before they bring you in? I'm sure they do, and I don't know what that it feels like. And then they put you in these uncomfortable, contorted positions because we have to get the right image. When we say 45 minutes of our time, that means that's 45 minutes less time that a patient is sitting on that apparatus, being contorted. So that contributes not only to our well-being and making things easier for us, it also contributes to patient satisfaction because the patient isn't inconvenienced as much either. All of these stories and many more that I have are all gleaned from clients that I've been working with in Lean. Now I know some of you think $1 million, this guy must work in a large major hospital in a major city, maybe 500-600 beds. No, I only work in small, rural, critical access hospitals. And every one of these stories came from my clients. So it's exciting to see what happens. It's exciting to see the difference makes. In one hospital, there was a facilities unit, a housekeeping unit, whose scores were about the 62nd percentile. They used the same tools, the same lean techniques, the same analytical tools. And over 8 months, they went from the 62nd percentile to the 93rd. And their story is interesting because it's not what you think in terms of cleanliness. The discovery that they made. If we got a chance, we'll tell you the story later. So, that's the kind of things that we discover when we do lean. So before we get going, here's a small favor. Turn your phone on. If you want to text me questions that you can. You can also put up your hand and just ask me. My phone is here. I have only gotten the entire 5 years I've been doing this 3 texts, but what the heck. If you want to text me, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. So, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk a little bit about the principles of lean. Where did all this stuff come from? Who invented it? Some simple terms and concepts. We're going to talk about some lean tools that we're going to use that are very simple and yet hugely effective. We're going to talk about lean daily management and then lean for the long term. So, what does lean stand for? I get asked that all the time. Lean does not mean skinny, as evidenced by my physique. Lean does not have a formal acronym. Some lean practitioners are very upset with me that I've made it an acronym. But lean basically stands for leaning the operation down and slimming it down. I like to think that what it means is leveraging empowerment and accountability now. In other words, let's empower ourselves to solve the problems and let's hold ourselves accountable to make sure that happens. Lean is built on 2 basic principles. The first principle is the voice of the customer. Now, every organization, including this one, and the purpose of our organization is to serve our customers in the way that they want to be served, not the way we think they want to be served. So the principle is that nothing is done in terms of improvement or change unless specifically as request to the voice of what the customer is telling us. That's principle number 1. Principle number 2 is respect. Everything must be done with respect. Respect for the employee, respect for the patient, respect for the family, respect for the manager, respect for the community. Everything must be done with respect. How about look around? Look at the people in the room. You know what you're looking at? You're looking at the most valuable resource this organization has. That's the people who work here. And we cannot engage in any kind of improvement activity unless we do it with respect if we really want to be effective. Taiichi Ohno, the founder of Lean, said, finding a breakdown in a process, engaging those who do the work to help fix the problem, letting them fix the broken process, that's respect. We always need respect, so key and critical. So what really is Lean? Lean is actually a growth strategy. It's about gaining market share and being prepared to enter in or create new markets. We need to understand what lean isn't because there are some misconceptions about lean. Lean is not slash and burn. Lean is not cutting heads or reducing workforce. Lean is not about cutting inventory. Lean is not a quick fix. Lean is not complicated, but it can be complex. It's not a slash and burn approach. It's a growth strategy based on working smarter, not harder. That's what lean is all about. So where did lean come from? Well, it all started back 1937 when Toyota formed the Toyota Motor Company. He saw the Ford system in the United States. He was enthralled with that and said he's got a 3-year window that he wanted to bring production in Japan to equal what he saw here in the United States. One of his engineers, Taiichi Ohno, is the father of lean. So what he did, he structured the Toyota production process to make it an integrated framework. And he's responsible, and that system is responsible for making Toyota the car manufacturer that it is today. So what is this production system we talk about? Production system, the inspiration came from 2 places. One was Ford. What did Henry Ford invent? The assembly line, exactly. You put a piece of metal of some kind in one end, and somewhere down the line, however long the assembly line is, a car comes out. The second inspiration was Piggly Wiggly. Has anybody here heard of Piggly Wiggly? My wife loved Piggly Wiggly. We used to go down to North Dakota. Where do you want to go shopping? I'm going to go to Piggly Wiggly for groceries. I said, why do you want to go there? She said, it's just a funny name. But do you know what Piggly Wiggly, the innovation that they brought to America? To the world? No, I'm not sure if it's in the late 20s, early 30s, they are the first grocery store, are you ready for this? That actually let the customer choose their groceries. Until then, you would go in, you would tell the shopkeeper what you wanted, they would put it in a bag, take your money, and give you the bag. But Piggly Wiggly said, no, let the customer take it. Let them choose. So So how does this impact Toyota, this production system? As a car moves through a production system, you want to make sure you have the exact inventory you need there to put it on the car as the car moves down. You want to have the exact amount you need and when you need it. Now I got some skeptical looks in the audience. You say, Michael, we're not building cars here. This is a hospital. How does this relate to us? That's an excellent question if you're asking yourself that. Think of inventory in a different way. If we have a patient and they're waiting for a test, maybe they're waiting for a result, that's their inventory. That's what they need right now. And if they're waiting for it, that's our inventory problems. It's the timing problem. We have to make sure what the patient has, they have it when they need it. And if they don't and there's a delay, that's waste. So those principles of the Toyota production system apply to what we do every day in healthcare. But there is some confusion around lean because you hear all kinds of expressions. So let's just have a quick look. Lean, basically simple, easy to do, not complicated, hugely effective. Then you have Lean Six Sigma. Lean Six Sigma, more tools, more complex, harder to do. Then you get to Six Sigma. Six Sigma is a very complex structured process and it's very highly statistical analysis. Six Sigma really means 6 standard deviations. So what does that mean in terms that we can all understand? Because I'm talking math I barely understand. So let me see if I can simplify it. I asked earlier, I asked Nick, how many registrations do you get here? How many people do the folks in registration register every year? And he said 40,000. So if you were Six Sigma, 6 standard deviations, you would have 3.4 errors on all of your forms. Okay, 3.4 errors, that's Six Sigma, every 200 years. Because you're talking 3.4 errors for every 1 million transactions. That's what Six Sigma means. I really don't think that's possible in registration. So it's complicated, it's complex, it just doesn't work for us. So, most concept people have of lean is that Lean Six Sigma marriage because they're sort of starting to meld and come together. For the purposes of what we're doing here, we are going to keep this simple and easy to do. So, why lean? Why are we doing this? We want to improve patient care. We want to eliminate waste. The patient of today wants more value. And ladies and gentlemen, we are stretched as far as we can go. There are no more budgets to cut. There are no more expenses to control. Productivity is at an all-time high. There is nothing left to do in those areas. The only thing that we can do is work better to improve process to make it better and easier for ourselves, because in order to survive, we need to do that. We need to unlock the potential. So what am I talking about? So what the patient sees in a typical visit, good service, but there's many reworks and checks and all the rest of that. That's the typical effort, which is generally the perception of the patient is good. But what does that cost us? The effort it took to take it. Here's some of the facts. There's errors and reworks. There's missed schedules, chronic overtime, billing and invoicing errors, capacity problems. There's all kinds of things that they don't see, that we have to go through those hoops to give them the experience that they do see. Those hoops are waste. Who pays for that? They do. We don't. They do. So we have our opportunity. Don Berbick said the level of waste in U.S. healthcare is 50%. Imagine if you could just recoup 1%. What difference would that make for you and for this hospital? So let's talk a little bit some lean terms. The first lean term I want to talk about is muda. Muda is the Japanese word for waste. So what is waste? Waste is any activity that does not add value to the customer. That's waste. Now, the whole purpose of lean is to identify the waste and to eliminate the root cause of that waste. Muda is a symptom. It's not the cause, it's the symptom that something is wrong. It's the root cause that we want to eliminate. There are 8 types of wastes. Let's walk through them quickly. Let's see if you can help me give some examples. Defects, works that has mistake or errors. Any ideas? Give me an example of a defect. An order missing a signature. It stalls right on your desk till somebody with the pen comes in, right? Motion, unnecessary movement that adds no value to a process. Think back to my example of that radiology unit. Right? They were doing a lot of movement, but it added nothing to the process. When we looked at movement and optimized it, it had a huge difference for everyone. Waiting, time that adds no value to a process while waiting for inputs. A physician waiting for a test result. A patient waiting for a physician waiting for a result, right? Waiting. Confusion. Workers who are not exactly sure what they're doing. Now, I'm not there's too many of you on the front here saying, oh, gee, that kind of describes me. Now, I'm not saying you don't know what you're doing, all right? But are you in a department where have you experienced this, where there's been a process change and not everybody knows about it? Huh? And then you're not really sure what to do, and half are doing one way or half are doing the other way, but you're asking each other what to do, and you're trying to find a way down the middle, right? Confusion. Wasted time. Processing, activities that add no value to the process from a customer's perspective. Unfortunately, and I don't mean to slam the folks in registration, right? But registration for the patient is waste. It adds nothing, and there's no value. No, we have to do it. It's essential. It's critical for us. But from the patient's perspective, it doesn't do anything for them. Overproducing, unnecessary superfluous work. Anybody have an example of this? I've been in hospitals where they've got electronic medical records and some units still use paper charts. And then they complain how busy they are. Why are we busy? Because it takes so long to chart. Why are you doing it twice? Think. Inventory, more material than required. All right, be honest. Have you got a little hidey hole somewhere in a drawer, a little cupboard, and you got some supplies in there because you know they're hard to get and you don't want to run out and they're really important? Eh? Waste. We worked with a materials management department in a hospital. I did a black belt project, in fact. And we were helpful with them that we reduced their inventory in materials management in the warehouse by $350,000. And we decreased their pharmacy inventory by $125,000. That's $500,000. That's a lot of money to carry on your books invested. And the reason is that the ordering system wasn't effective. They were ordering wrong quantities. So we put a system in place to balance that. And the other thing with more material than you need, if you have a product that's dated, you might have garbage if you've ordered too much, because if the date's over, you can't use it. So inventory is a problem. Then finally, transporting, unnecessary movement of people or materials. Be honest. How many of you have gone into a closet to get something and you went, oh my God, this is a dog's breakfast, and you've had to move 10 things out to get what you wanted, and you had to move 9 things back in to close the door? Has that happened to you? Yeah, that's exactly what that is. Unnecessary movement because we're not organized. Another good example is our friends in radiology where they did a lot of movement. So these are the wastes. The customer does not pay for waste. We pay for waste by being less competitive because that's our competitive edge. If we can remove the waste, that's our competitive edge. And that's what the customer is looking for. Another lean concept is standard work. Standard work is work that we do all the time the same way. So have a chat with your buddies real quick, 1 minute. Give me some examples of standard work. You've got 1 minute starting now. Okay, so could someone share maybe an example or two of standard work?
Verifying all the supplies and instruments are present for a case,
Verifying that all supplies and instruments are present for a case.
so you're not wasting time going to get stuff.
So you're not wasting time going to get stuff. Excellent example. Anyone else? We've had suggestions earlier today, doing an IV, starting an IV, cleaning a room. We're in a business of standard work, as all business is. And why do we bring up the concept? Because we want to bring in the concept of standards and standard work when we talk about lean. Because we want to make sure we're all doing things the same way. And you'll understand why in a bit. But we want to make sure everything is standardized. Because you're going to ask me, and I know it always happens, can we do this way instead? And the answer is usually no. Because we want standard work. Gemba is another Japanese term that you're going to hear. I use Gemba. I don't use Muda much. I use Gemba a lot. Gemba means the place where the work is actually done. This is the place where the value added is delivered to the customer. This is where the value added activities happen. And if the value added activities happen in the Gemba, in other words, in the workplace, all improvement activities must happen in the Gemba as well. Not in a boardroom, not in a classroom, but in the Gemba. When Nick said you got 3 days with me in about a month's time, how many of you were thrilled to think, my God, I'm going to spend 3 days in this classroom with Michael? Strangely, no hand is ever, just one. You're the first person to put their hand up today. You know that. Thank you. You're so nice. But we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do this in the Gemba. When we talk about how we're going to implement, you'll learn how that happens. But in the Gemba, that's where it's important. Mai said the truth is in the Gemba. The concept of a Gemba walk is not like management by walking around, which is more of a casual thing, at least in my mind, but it's a disciplined scientific approach to go to the unit to learn what is being done. There's many different types of Gemba walks. We're going to concentrate for this part of our program on the Gemba walks as it relates to lean daily management. So what's lean daily management? Lean daily management is a daily huddle and debriefing of activities that have occurred since the last huddle. It's a key step in continuous improvement. The Gemba walk itself is going to be conducted by your admin team, who once a week is going to show up in your department for your daily service huddle. And they're going to be debriefed on what has gone on. Now, we don't want managers to do the debrief. We want frontline staff to do the debrief. And why do we want on a rotating basis? Because we want people to understand what's important and what the numbers mean and what we're doing about it. I saw the big poster you guys have up with all the great awards that you won in terms of your HCAP scores last year, and fantastic news. But if I went out there, or even if I asked you, how many can you rattle off your HCAP scores? I would think that that level of knowledge is not as high maybe as it should be. But if we have people looking at this constantly, it will drive the importance to them. The other thing with the admin team, their function is not to come and tell you what to do and offer suggestions, because that can create waste. If they lead you down the wrong path, you're just wasting time. Their function is to come and to see, to listen, to ask why, and to give support in removing roadblocks that you've run up against. That's their function. And then, of course, the encouragement and all of those good things as well. So why do we do the Gemba walk? I love this chart by Sidney Yoshida. I saw this years ago. I absolutely love it. The iceberg of ignorance. 2% of problems are known to executives. Now, I want to make it clear that your CEO knows what's going on, but the reason we say the 4% of problems are known to executives, from the minutia and the day-to-day things, the only stuff that they really get involved in is the stuff that blows up and lands on their desk. 9% are problems known to team managers. Translate that to directors. 74% to managers, but 100% of the problems are known to frontline staff. If we know 100% of the problems, ladies and gentlemen, we know 100% of the solutions. And Lean empowers us and holds us accountable for looking at those problems and finding solutions. So, how can we do that? Let's look at some Lean tools. The first one is the Gemba board. It's the focal point of the daily huddle. It's the focal point of the walk. And the idea here is to document, to record to solve any kind of service issues. It's also a place to look for key performance indicators that we're following on a daily basis. So what do these things look like in a brief explanation? Here we have now, some folks call them different names. I'm a little bit biased to the Patient Experience Board. This is a model that we're going to use that needs to be adjusted a little bit. I've noticed that. We'll go across the top. You've got departmental goals. We need to add in corporate goals. What are your corporate goals in terms of HCAHPS and patient satisfaction that you're looking for this year? Next to that, departmental goals. What specific departmental goals are you setting for your department that will drive that corporate goal to make sure we attain it? We want a section for HCAHPS scores and current scores and updated scores so we know where we are and how we're doing. I want to drop down to the lower left-hand side, that big box. There's 6 boxes in there. These are departmental key performance indicators. We're going to ask every department to come up with indicators in safety, quality, service excellence, productivity, and cost. Now we throw another one in, said TBA. You don't just have to have 5, but we're going to require you to have at least 5. The next column over is a column, it says announcements. What do you put in announcements? Our new nurse, Sally, put her pictures. Don't forget to say hi. Michael's coming on the 8th. Make sure you sign up to go. Potluck on Thursday. What are you bringing? So those kinds of general announcements and things, that goes in announcements. You've got safety alerts. Any kind of a safety issue goes on there, and it's not taken off until it's hardwired. You may come to work one day and look at the Gemba board, and you look, and maybe infection controls put a safety alert up for you that you have to tell everyone about. Change alerts. What kind of changes in process have we put into place that we want to make sure are hardwired? They go there until everyone's seen them. Service recovery. We're doing service recovery, but we don't hear the stories, we don't hear the wherefores, the whys, and what happened. We want service recovery to be put on there till everyone's heard the story before it goes to the Service Excellence Council. And now for my personal favorite. Down the right-hand side, an entire column for the do it process. On the top, you've got complaints, suggestions, 1%ers. Next down, the living Pareto chart, and we'll show you what that looks like in a minute. You've got the prioritized do-its. So when you have a do-it, you put them there in a prioritized order, and you have a little matrix there that helps you prioritize them. Now, that is there as a placeholder, and on the actual Gemba board, if the board was as big as it's projecting now, that would be the size of a Post-it note, okay? But we just wanted to make sure we put that priority matrix there so I remember. The next one down is in progress do-it. So what do-it is going on? What are you doing? They're not quite finished yet. And then the very bottom, completed and hardwired do-its. When everybody knows what's going on, they finally come off, because we need to really bring that do-it process and start to work on it hard. So any questions on the Gemba board? Any questions at all on the Gemba board? No? Does this look cool? Oh, I'm excited about this. Number 2, the second tool is the Pareto chart. Very simple. You got on the left-hand side, you got category or incidents, right? So something happens, you write down what happens, then you put the date. If it happens again, you put another date, another date, another date. When something else happens, you keep adding on to the list, and when it happens, you just date it, and you'll see a bar graph appear with your biggest problems that you need to fix. Pareto chart is very, very, very effective way of tallying up some of the issues that you have. Tool number 3 is the 5 whys root cause analysis. The ultimate goal is finding the root cause and eliminating the root cause. It's easy, it's simple, and the best part is there's no math. How many of you ever used the 5 whys? All right, there's maybe 1 or 2 hands go up. Cool. Well, here's how you do it. It's really simple. You ask why 5 times in a very annoying manner. And you may ask it with respect, but the person you're asking it to after the 4th or 5th why, you can get annoyed. But this is a great tool, and this is one of the tools that spans all of the lean disciplines. Even Lean Six Sigma uses this as a key problem-solving tool. So here's a good example of how it works. The Washington Monument was degrading. So why? Use of harsh chemicals. Why are you using harsh chemicals? Pigeon poop. Why all the pigeons? They eat the spiders. There's a lot of spiders on the Washington Monument. Why are there spiders on the Washington Monument? because they eat gannats, and there's lots of gannats. That's the Canadian pronunciation of that. I know it's gnats. Anyway, why are there so many gnats? They're attracted to the light at dusk. That's your root cause. So what do? Now here's one solution. Turn the lights off at a later time so that the gnats are attracted somewhere else. Maybe another solution might be using different light bulbs with different light frequencies. I don't know. But nice, easy, simple to use. The fourth tool is countermeasures, is do it. We're all familiar with the do it process, and we're going to use this. The difference is we're going to start the countermeasure immediately. We're not going to wait. And one of the big things we're going to do here is we're going to marry do it and 5 whys. And some of my clients have actually double-sided forms where 5 whys is on one side, do it is on the other. And if you've got to do it with no 5 whys, you're going to be asked why 5 times, just to give you a warning. Because it's key and critical that we start to use that problem-solving process. Because I know it's been taught in the past, but we haven't been using it effectively or as often as we could. So we really want to hardwire that. So what's lean daily management? Lean daily management is these daily activities every day of looking at the board, understanding what's going on, engaging in continuous improvement. So are there advantages of having this disciplined daily process of gathering data and assessing performance? Have a chat with your buddies, 30 seconds, we'll see what you have to say. So, are there advantages to us of having a disciplined daily process of gathering data and assessing performance? Is this advantageous to us? Absolutely it is. It keeps our eye on the ball, it keeps our eye on the prize. We're chasing that ever elusive 5-star rating. But you know what? That's not a good enough goal. I hate to tell you that. It's not enough to get a 5-star rating, it's to maintain a 5-star rating, and that's not easy. And if we do this, we will be successful in maintaining that elusive 5-star rating, because that's what it's about. And it's about sharing of information as well. I was with another client who aren't on a lean journey. It was interesting. It was a Service Excellence Council meeting. And one of the members who was in surgery was saying that there's a new nurse, hadn't been there very long, was very frustrated. You know, who's on call? Who do I phone for this? Who do I phone for that? It was driving her crazy. So she decided one day to come to work 2 minutes early. She wrote a little list, a little phone list with all the names and the phone numbers, put it on the back of her badge. So now if she needed to call somebody during the day, she'd grab her badge, she'd pick up a phone and dial. So they thought this was a great idea, so now they do it for everybody. So now someone's tasked in the morning of preparing this little list and giving it to everybody. The chief nursing officer, who's the chair of the Service Excellence Council, said, "That is absolutely brilliant. We need to do this everywhere. How long have you been doing this?" 6 months. We got to spread the best practice around. One of the functions of the admin team here, when they hear a best practice like that, to say, "Wow, what a great job. Have you shared that with someone else?" And when you say no, what are they going to do?
Why not?
Ask you why 5 times, exactly, right? So it's a way of sharing information and getting it out there. So it's really a hugely valuable tool for growth and progress. So how does lean daily management integrate into service excellence? It will supercharge your service excellence initiative. We're going to use Do It as our tool for countermeasures. The difference here is we're going to initiate Do It's immediately when something happens. We're going to use a process called A3 for larger projects. And we'll teach you all about A3 in 6 months' time when you need to know about it. We're not going to worry about it today, but for larger projects, we do have a perhaps more robust process that we'll teach you. And the big one too is if you're doing weekly service huddles now, we're going to shift your weekly service huddles to daily service huddles. So, why are we integrating? Because we want to create a culture of continuous improvement, and we want to focus management activities on exceptions and problems, and we want to help frontline employees grow and thrive. We want to help people see how they're doing against established standards. So what's that going to look like here at Good Shepherd? What's the implementation process? Well, it's pretty simple. First of all, you're not going to be in the room for 3 days. It's a 3-day process to do this. But, you know, when I was a young man, I have a degree in chemistry and biology, double major. When I was doing chemistry, you'd go into the chem lab, the lab demo would talk about what you're supposed to do. We'd step back, we would do our things. He would walk around and chat, see how we were doing. When he felt that we were just about done, he would sort of get our attention again, do a little more lecture. We'd go back to work, and at the end of the lab, we would be finished. This is an experiential lab. In 3 days, you probably are not. My goal is to have you in this room for less than 5 hours. If the value-added activities take place in the Gemba, then this must take place in the Gemba. So we're going to have you in here, we're going to talk, we're going to give you assignments, and we're going to send you out. We'll huddle from time to time. I will be on call, running around. You need me, just call me, I'll come and help you. If you have trouble setting KPIs, you have trouble setting stuff up, you want explanations, you want me to talk to your staff, not a problem at all. I'm there for you. So it's not 3 days in a classroom. It's 3 days Gesundheit, to implement this. We're going to install the Gemba boards and populate them. We're going to determine what our key performance indicators are for each department. You're going to do that. We're going to start to record and chart problems and the process of what we're doing to fix them. We're going to hardwire standard problem solving using 5 whys and do it. And they will be married together. So you will have to have a 5 whys for every do it. That is a key element in driving this forward. We're going to teach staff how to do all of this. If you have got staff that are away or you got multi-shift, I'm thinking nursing, we have to come up with a training plan and an action plan to train people to make sure they understand what they're doing. We need to develop and distribute standard scripts. So how do we do this debriefing so that we understand what the process is from our perspective, that we're doing it every day, and what we're going to be asked by the admin team when they come to visit us. We're going to map out the Gemba walk. And on the last day, we're going to Gemba walk every single department. So I will be at every single department. And I have made a commitment all day. I'm going to make it here and in the next couple of sessions. Yes, I will do a Gemba walk with the night shift. We want to make sure that everybody understands and has an equal opportunity. So who does all this? We do. Everybody. Everybody's responsible for populating the board. Everybody's responsible for putting things on. Everybody's responsible for making changes. Everyone's responsible for taking on the responsibility of problem solving. And the admin team will help us, and we'll help them so that they can understand current performance. Key and critical. Ono, the founder of Lean, said, "Something is wrong if workers do not look around each day, find things that are tedious, then rewrite the procedures. Even last month's manual should be out of date." Wow. So when do we do it? We do Lean Daily Management daily. When does it end? Lean Daily Management never ends. The huddles never end. The Gemba walks never end. Someone asked me, and I've been asked this more than once, they said, "So Michael, when can we end this?" And here's my answer. When you no longer want to be successful. How many times have you done improvements in your units, right? Things go really, really well, and all of a sudden things fall off, right? Go back to the old ways, you get a little lazy, and all of a sudden your results aren't what you want, right? Or not what you expected. We can't let that happen because we have to be strong and grow. That's why this process is a continuous living process. Because we're in this for the long term. You don't do lean. We're not doing lean here. We are becoming lean. We have to base our decisions on long-term benefit, not short-term benefit, and sometimes those decisions can be painful. But the right processes will always produce the right results. And we add huge value to the organizations. We develop ourselves and each other in a partnership to create a truly continuous improvement culture. And that's what Lean does. John Arthur Porter said, "People underestimate their capacity for change. There's never a right time to do a difficult thing. A leader's job is to help people have a vision for their potential." So what do we do as Lean leaders? It's very simple. And we all are Lean leaders. We only have to do 3 simple things. Go see. Ask why. and always show respect. So how did $1 million show up on a balance sheet unexpectedly? The coders were coding, and something wasn't right. So they phoned the lean person, the point person. They said, Jeff, we think there is an error in the process of how we record the stop-start times of IVs. He said, okay, we'll have a look at it. Jeff went to nursing and said, we had a report that there may be an error in the process of how we record the start-stop times of IVs. You notice my careful choice of words? I didn't say the nurses screwed up. The nurses didn't screw up. There was an error in the process. That's respect, right? The nurses said, cool, we need to look into this. They looked into it. Guess what? Coders were right. The gut was right. First month, they built $80,000 in profit. Because someone said, we think there's an error. They said it with respect. They went to the department with respect. Nobody screws up. It's always a process problem. And when you solve process problems, miracles can happen because there's no finger pointing and nobody gets shoved under the bus. That's why respect is so important. And that's why you can make the changes and find these things. So I have to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to get on this journey? Are you ready to come together to look at problems, to look at issues that we can solve together? To drive this thing into Drive Service Excellence to become the best hospital in the United States and the heck with all the rest. Are you committed to that? Come on, I need to hear that. Are you committed to that? Yes. All right. Thank you very much. I look forward to coming back in 3 or 4 weeks. We'll see you then and have a great rest of the day.